Hi everybody, welcome to another episode. I've got another great idea from Stephen this time. It's about people not doing what they enjoy. So you brought this up this morning, so talk to me a little bit about what you mean by that.
Yeah, it's a real sensitive one, and I think this one's really going to hit people's heartstrings, I think, this morning. And that is, so many people, when you ask the question, what do you enjoy doing? They'll give you 3 or 4 things that they really, really enjoy doing. And the next question I say is, when was the last time you did that? And they will be racking their brains to actually tell you when they last did it, which really makes me think that how many of us go through our daily lives unhappy because we're not doing the things that actually bring us joy. And then we make the excuses on why we're not doing those things. So for me, it's about, if you enjoy doing something, how can you change your lifestyle to enable yourself to be able to do that thing? Because I strongly believe it makes you a happier person. It just makes you happier because that particular thing, whatever it is, gives you comfort, gives you joy, you enjoy it. It's something that you really like to do. So why wouldn't you do that? And I guess it also raises that point about us as human beings. Do we think that's selfish? Do we think doing things that we enjoy is selfish, and that's why we don't do it? But what I would say is, if you do the things that you enjoy, you are just a nicer person to be around because you're happier. And you know, whether you've got lots of money or you haven't got lots of money, surely some of the things that you enjoy doing aren't always expensive. You know, I like going for a walk, and I know when I haven't done it frequently, I can get, you know, my mental health takes a bit of a battering, and I can get quite somber and quite down. It doesn't cost anything, but it's something that I enjoy doing. Sometimes when you talk about this, people think about, oh yes, really expensive things that you need to do, and it's not about that for me. It's about what makes you happy and what do you enjoy, and why aren't you doing it?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, especially one thing you said at the end, sort of starting at the end, the material thing, purchasing something absolutely isn't what it's about. I'm not suggesting that having nice things doesn't make you feel good, but it's a short-lived feeling most of the time. I think people, if they're honest enough, would agree. The sort of buyer's remorse thing, maybe not always that, but still the idea of having that thing that you've wanted and then possessing it fades over a period of time, sometimes quite quickly. So it's certainly not about that. And I can definitely relate, because I'm very lucky the way that this life works. I get to do a lot of what I love. One of those things is golf. I absolutely love golf, but obsessively. And the weather at the time of recording this has been quite cold, and the courses are either closed or on what we call temporary greens, which is not proper golf for anybody who's listening. So it's miserable, and I haven't been out for about 10 days, and I can definitely, it's an issue, because there's a whole load of things. First and foremost is the pursuit of golf. That's fun. Being outside for 4 hours in the fresh air hasn't happened. I normally get to do it twice a week at least, which is pretty cool. But also the people I spend time with, you know, there's people I play with regularly, there's other people that I catch up with more regularly because of golf and things like that. All stops, and there's a little community around where I play, and suddenly it all stops. So I can imagine people probably have done things like this in the past, not necessarily golf, maybe when they were younger or something like that, and they've not done it. And if they asked themselves, would they like to start doing that again tomorrow, they would say yes. So the question that we would be asking is, why aren't you? Why aren't you doing it now? Because initially you're just like, well, I can't. And we know how we feel about that word, not very favourable. You definitely can. So what are the issues? What's in the way? And this is what we would be wanting to talk about, isn't it? Because, yeah, what is the point of all the things you do if you don't enjoy them? Because like you've talked about with you not walking, like I've talked about with not playing golf and a few other bits and pieces, then you're going to be miserable. To a degree, there's levels, isn't there? You know, you're not saying you're going to be depressed. It could end up that way, but you're going to be less happy than you were. And what, like I say, what's the point? I can't get my head around why people would go through the same old thing day after day, day after day, day after day, getting slightly more miserable every day, potentially. That's the risk. So does that sort of follow on well from what you've said, or have I taken us off piste a bit?
No, not at all. And while he was talking, I just thought about the word compromise, because I guess what sometimes happens is if you're in a partnership relationship with someone, you compromise. So maybe and I know we've talked about this before, maybe what happens is you don't value the things that make you happy, so you end up doing things that makes someone in your life more happy. So then your thing goes on the back burner. And I actually think it's really simple for me. It's like, if you do the things that you enjoy as frequently as you can, the byproduct of that is you will be happy. You know, those endorphins will get released and you will just naturally feel happy. And that might be, you know, spending more family time. If spending more family time makes you happy, making that happen will make you happy. If playing golf, like you've talked about, you know, will make you happy. Me with the walking, and I do think that it is that simple. And there'll be people listening to going, "It's not that simple. I enjoy fishing, and I can't." But you know, what do you need to do to make sure you go fishing if that's what you enjoy, or go dancing, or go to the cinema? And it really is that simple. And I think what happens is, as humans, is we make it really complicated.
Yeah.
And then we don't end up doing the thing that we really enjoy. So, and a simple test, you know, think about what are 4 or 5 things that I really, really, really enjoy doing. And then ask yourself, when was the last time I actually did that? And I think you'll be horrified with the answer. And what's beautiful about this subject matter is to have an impact on it. It's not that difficult. It really is not that difficult. Think about something that you enjoy doing and bloody go and do it.
Yeah. Absolutely. You know, there are, you know, there's potentially seasonal restrictions to some things. It doesn't mean you can't do it more at certain times of the year, less at other times of the year, you know, daylight hours and so forth. But there's definitely not a chance that you can't do these things. You know, occasionally there'll be financial restrictions. That's fair enough. But then there probably isn't the only thing that you want to do. It involves like buying a £3 million boat so you can go out onto cruises. There's probably ways of accessing something similar, but just not quite at the high level. So people can always find a way to cheat this a little bit and say, oh yeah, but, you know, because they set the bar just like ludicrously high. So you just got to be a little bit realistic with yourself. And I think the one thing that comes out in conversations I have, so I don't tend to work too often with many people who are in jobs. My clients tend to own businesses or run them or be senior leaders within it and so forth. And I don't know, don't need to dwell on why that may or may not be. So I don't get to have a chat with people who are in everyday jobs in my professional capacity, but I do, especially in golf. I get to chat to people about their daily jobs a lot. And the question I always ask them when they're struggling with something is, because they talk about security. And I'm always fascinated that, I don't know, mortgage companies and things like that take a lot of credibility into the fact that someone's got a full-time contract. I work with a lot of people for whom that full-time contract means nothing to me if that person needs to go. Yes, all right, so you might have some more security because there's some redundancy pays and things like that, but you are as dispensable as someone on a temporary contract within a certain degree. So if you are staying somewhere because you think it is secure and the safe option, I don't want to pour cold water on that, because you're probably not a million miles off, especially if you've got a good employer, but it isn't as safe a bet as you think. And if it's making you miserable, don't let that be the thing that holds you back, the feeling, oh no, but what if? You will be fine. There will be opportunities out there as long as you're brave enough and as long as you look to be positive and proactive and keep doing the things you need to do. Because I come across that a lot, oh yeah, but I wouldn't be able to get a job anywhere else. Rubbish! Absolute rubbish is what I say to every single one of them, because that isn't the case. You can definitely tell yourself I wouldn't be able to get another job, then not look for one properly and definitely not find one. You can absolutely set yourself off that path. But if what you're doing right now is making you isn't making you happy, or is making you unable to do the things you enjoy, or worse, is making you unhappy, quit. Don't mean quit overnight, but start looking for something, start doing something different. It really is as absolutely brutal as that, because honestly, you could be let go any time. I don't want to scare people, especially in the environment that we're in. At the time we record this, it's beginning of 2023, so it's a little unnerving, but that should awaken people up to the fact that no one is safe. We're in Norwich. The university is in a huge deficit. It's just had an article in the local newspaper. They had £13 million in deficit last year, and they will be having to make redundancies. And they're one of the ones who've been upfront about it. So really, really important that you don't trap yourself in the fact that I feel safe here, and that then means that I feel safe, but I'm unhappy. That, so again, you seem to trigger me to rant, but I feel like that was a worthwhile rant. Challenge me back. What have I gone too far?
No, actually, you open another door, really, especially in the workplace. And I guess, so many of us, I use the word Groundhog Day. We've all been there in our professional lives where we're doing something that we don't enjoy. So it goes back to my question again. It's, what are the things that you enjoy and why aren't you doing them? So if you enjoy working, but you're working in an environment that's not bringing you joy and you're not happy, then why are you there? So, it does sort of make you think about security. What does that word actually mean? And can you ever be secure, really? Just like we talk about a safe place. Is there such thing as a safe place, or is there just a safer place? And I guess this kind of touches on that realms about security. A lot of the time, you'll see people go, "Oh, we're not going to make any changes because, if I change, it's, I'm going to have less security." But guess what? Nothing's definite. Nothing's forever. So if you are in a job that you're not happy with and it's not making you happy, I'm not saying leave your job tomorrow. What I'm saying is let's make some plans. Let's have a discussion. Let's start thinking about what's my next steps and what could I do that's going to make me happy. So, this whole subject matter really starts to cross over into, another thing just came to my head while I was just talking, and that was, about relationships. The fact that you're not doing the things that make you happy might be because you're actually in a relationship that actually is making you quite sad. So there might be some decisions you need to make there. And I do think, we mustn't beat ourselves up about the fact that we don't feel happy about something. I think beat yourself up that you're not doing something about it, Oliver. That's the thing. It's like, it's not having the feeling is absolutely fine. What's not fine is doing nothing about that feeling. And this is where it really, crosses over into the fact that I started by saying, why aren't you doing the things that make you happy? And I think the bigger picture is, if something's not making you happy, what are you doing about changing now? What steps are you making to actually do the things that make you happy?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love that. I mean, that just crosses over on so many areas that we work on. We've talked about tolerance in the past. We've talked about fear of failure, both in the past and probably going to touch on that a little bit today. And that's what it is. It's about, and also the negative language you use about telling ourselves we haven't got enough time, that we can't do that I've tried, which is a rubbish word. No one ever tries. You either did or you didn't do it. All these sorts of things. And this is that perfect moment, isn't it, where you're thinking, if you could actually just sit there, do exactly what Stephen said, and think about the things you enjoy the most and how often you get to do them, and then start questioning why you do or don't get to do them, that is going to be a very healthy exercise. I mean, it's potentially unhealthy initially because it's going to awaken you to the fact that maybe you're not doing the things you want to do. But also, what are the causes of that? Because we've talked about work and time, but it could be exactly as you say, a partner. And you've got some very difficult decisions that may come out of this, but also, potentially a very long time dead. So if this is something that awakens that in you today, that's very powerful. I think we've both had experiences. I can certainly speak for myself. I'm unfortunately, I don't think this is unfortunate, but I went through a divorce some sort of 11, 12 years ago. I can't speak for my ex-wife, but I think it's a good thing for her, and it certainly was a very good thing for me because we were not compatible in actual fact, and we're trying to force something together for about 10 years. It was never going to work, which is just insanity, but at least it was only 10. I mean, it could still be here. We could be, and who knows what would have happened if we'd have done it for another 20 years and things like that. And we were, I think, fortunate there were no kids involved, so it made the separation a lot easier. But, whole things that you probably don't want to think about are going to be contributing towards this lack of doing the stuff you want to do. And you're going to have to do some soul searching to get to the answer of it. And again, I use this terminology a lot, totally stolen from the book The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. But the things that are incredibly easy to do are also incredibly easy not to do. And 95% plus of people will do the things, or will not do the things they need to do. And then, definition of madness is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting something different. It's not going to happen. And worse still, the more of these things you do over time, whole slight edge again, if you do them positively, you start seeing an improvement that goes up. But you keep doing the things that aren't working for you, then suddenly there's quite a gradual fall off that gets very, very severe towards the end. And it's never too late, but it's a lot worse if you don't act now. It's an interesting thing, because you can start with something so gentle, like what are you doing, what are you not doing that you enjoy, and why aren't you doing it, can open up a big, big can of worms for you. And I suppose probably should come with a little bit of caution. You may not like where it takes you, but be brave, be bold, because you will like where it directs you after you sort of cleanse, for want of a better word. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And, while you were talking, Oliver, I was just thinking that sometimes as well, it is about belief and believing in yourself. And one thing that I've really noticed as I've matured and got a bit older is those things that you enjoy doing as well, they won't change, because actually that's part of you. That's why you enjoy doing those things. So don't kid yourself by thinking, oh, it'll pass, it'll be fine, because it won't. It'll always be there. And I do believe that either you'll be compromising yourself, or, the person that you're with might be compromising themselves as well. And, it is believing in yourself, that comes to mind for me. And also not ignoring those feelings. And like Oliver says, there might be some term, this podcast might really enable people to really think real deep. And then you might think, what, that's really resonated with me. I think I need to take a look at myself a bit more, because actually that makes a lot of sense. And there's no doubt in my mind that we can all be happy. We can all be happy, but we have to make some changes around what we actually enjoy doing. And that might mean that you have to make some changes to do that. But I'm confident that we can all be happy, but we have to make those changes, not changes to ourselves, because I don't believe we can change ourselves. I think we can do things differently, which impacts the outcome. But it's about doing things differently so that you can do the things that make you happy, and you will be happy.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, right there came to mind in his very early episodes of the Stephen Bartlett podcast, or was it Diary of a CEO? He talked about a visit he had, I think it's India, I might be wrong, but he went to one of the slum areas there. And I just remember, I'll get the wording wrong, but he just talked about how happy the kids were in the slums playing with whatever it was he was describing them playing with. And that kind of just blew his mind a little bit, because they had literally, as we would describe it, nothing. But they were really happy. They were laughing. They were enjoying themselves. And that was a real big moment for him, where he sort of realised, I think that probably because he's always been going on about how when he was young he wanted to have a house and a car and be a millionaire. And I think that was the first moment where it hit him. It was like, oh my word, that was ridiculous. So absolutely 100% agree with you. And there's lots of evidence out there that anyone can be happy. And in fact, the world we live in, it's much easier to find yourself unhappy, because there's so many things to distract you from that path to happiness, to purpose and things like that. So no, I think that's a really powerful one again. I mean, I kind of feel all the podcasts that we've done are, and I think, to be honest, they all round back to something fairly similar in that you can do things about whatever the situation is. It's just certain, I think Stephen will probably find the same, certain things trigger our clients differently. What we coach is never identical, but the core is always relatively central to what we do. We come at it from many different ways. So whatever one of our podcasts sort of triggers you to look at yourself and your situation is going to help. So no, I think that's a really good one. For me, I feel like I've ranted enough. So if there's anything you want to close with, Stephen, anything else you'd like to add?
Just a little statement. Be your happy.
Nice way to end.